I hope you've enjoyed this video on Tartuffe. Remember, these are texts you'll be reading, but in your mind's eye, always think about how they would be performed. When you're looking at the text for Activity 4, think about how the characters would be positioned on stage. How would Tartuffe be speaking to others? Would he be bending on one knee, beating his breast as he confesses to his sins? Think about Molière being an actor. Think about how he would have thought about how the characters move on stage and how they have the most effect for the audience in the way in which they operate on the stage. I hope you've understood more about the thrust of Molière's comedies and understood more about the concept of hypocrisy. We've also looked at the figure of the parasite. I hope you've understood more about the power of persuasion by looking at Activity 4, Tartuffe's rhetoric, and the answer key talks about specifically his rhetorical strategies, his way of persuading. I hope you've understood the creative potential for reworking this classic text, and this is something I'm going to show now when we look at adaptations. The play has elicited, obviously, so much interest across the centuries, and it's performed now. It was performed in the National Theatre last year and is constantly performed in France. And with fresh eyes, for example, John Donnelly did a version locating it in Brexit Britain, and the version that Gérald Garuti did in London, which we've got access to, which I hope you can watch, transplants it to Los Angeles. And Tartuffe is a guru evangelical figure. So that's very interesting to see how you can have different versions in different landscapes. I'm also going to mention just at the end some texts for critical studies that you might want to take your reading further. I have a book that I've written, which I include in the bibliography, which has a chapter specifically on Tartuffe, and my work on hypocrisy and parasite for these videos has borrowed from that. So I hope you can enjoy the segment that I provide in the notes. So here are just some posters of the plays that have been inspired by Tartuffe, adaptations of Tartuffe in English. The Royal Shakespeare Company made Tartuffe an imam. A few years back, there was a version with Martin Clunes as Tartuffe, where he nearly rapes her on the table. And I'm sure you can see that, it's had appeal for centuries, but now with the Me Too movement, it takes a different kind of dimension as well, this terrifying figure that harasses the woman in the household. We've got Tartuffe by John Donnelly, where he's a kind of mystic guru, borrows from Buddhism, but is a homeless person that enters the household, and that's very interesting. And then the last one, Garuti's play set in Los Angeles, a world of decadence and excess and flashiness, and the king is actually replaced by Trump. So it's very interesting to see these different approaches. And I encourage you to watch as many as you can, think about how you might stage a version, and whether you think they're capturing the essence of what Molière is trying to say, or whether you think they deviate too much. And adaptations and translations are always interesting in that respect. Some websites here. You can have the preview of Garuti's play, which you can then watch. John Donnelly's talking about his version, and you can see the RSC production advertised there. I think I encourage you to explore these further. I'm not going to say much about extra reading, but two books that I would highlight is Controversy in French Drama, a whole monograph devoted to the Tartuffe, written by Julia Prest. This is an excellent book. So if you're really interested in one book that talks about the controversy, Tartuffe, le faux de veau, understanding the context, I would recommend that. And Michel Serres' Le Parasite that I mentioned is an excellent book on thinking about the figure of the parasite. And you might want to just have a look at that if you can get hold of it. Understanding the rhetorical side of the dialogue is very important in plays. This act of persuasion that happens, not just on the character-to-character access, but on the character-to-audience access. And Michael Horcroft's book is particularly good at this. I would recommend chapter 3, where he talks specifically about Tartuffe, page 92 to 93. And my book that I mentioned before, chapter 4, focuses on Tartuffe. So I've given just a small extract from that book, but if you'd like to look at it, maybe you can get your library to get hold of it. Here's some further reading. McBride's book, the play version I talked about with Borky and Forestier, and Julia's book, Julia Press book, Controversy in French Drama. Thank you. I will leave my email, and if you have any questions, please do contact me. I love Molière, and I've worked with students producing plays and on working on the text. So if you ever want to get in touch and you have some ideas about putting on a Molière play, please do get in contact. Merci. Au revoir.